You have a person with a brain and an idea that no one else in the world has, maybe. What is that thing? It's some little unique pattern in their brain, right? And somehow they open their mouth like this, and sound waves go out through the ears of people in the audience. And by some miracle, maybe at the end of 18 minutes, every one of those brains has that same pattern in it. This is astonishing.
Does the thought of getting up in front of a crowd of strangers and speaking terrify you? If so, you wouldn't be alone. Research consistently shows that in most people, it produces a substantial amount of stress. So can this be overcome? Can anyone learn to give a successful speech, perhaps even one as good as a TED Talk? Joining us now is Chris Anderson, the president and curator of TED and the author of TED Talks, the official TED Guide to Public Speaking. Chris, welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Tanya.
So is it true, do you think that almost anyone can become a good speaker?
I actually think they can. If you can sit at a dinner party and tell a story to a group of friends, you can give a talk. Because it's actually the same thing. It's that conversational tone. It's saying something that matters to you. I think it's a real tragedy that so many people who are so bright and have so much to offer the world just think, no, it's too frightening. I can't do it.
But for a lot of people, the idea of being at a dinner party is very different than being on stage in front of hundreds of strangers. What has your personal journey been with public speaking? Are you a natural, or did you work at it?
I'm definitely not a natural. I've had my fair share of speaking disasters in my time, and I'm kind of got this awkward body language sometimes, and I'll forget what I was going to say, and can come over very earnest and whatever. So, but occasionally, I have given an effective talk, and so I mean, in a way the book is trying to say, look, these things are teachable, and if I can sometimes give an effective talk, you certainly can.
Right. So that's what the book shares.
That's the core of it.
Is there any secret or formula to a successful TED Talk?
There's definitely no formula, but I think the core goal that each speaker should have is don't think about think about giving a gift. If you can give your audience the gift of an idea while you're on stage, your talk will be successful. And right there is where a lot of talks I think go wrong, is that people come in, or they think, this is my opportunity, I'm going to promote my company, my idea, I'm going to sell something. That switches audiences off right away. So if you dial back and say, no, my goal is to figure out something great, a piece of knowledge that I can share that will be meaningful to the audience. How do I do that?
Right.
And if you start there, everything else follows from that.
I like that imagery, that of giving a gift. Now, when you go to all the TED Talks that are online and you watch them, you think, every one of them is such a good speaker. I want to talk about the 13-year-old Richard Turere.
Yes.
And his journey. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
So my colleague, Kelly Stetzel, and I went traveling in search of some unexpected TED speakers. And in Nairobi, Kenya, we met this kid. He was a Maasai kid. He'd grown up in his, farming his family's goats out in a area where there were wild animals. There were lions, and he'd figured out he taught himself electronics by taking apart his parents' radio.
Amazing.
Built a solar-powered device that flashed lights around the pen where the goats were.
To scare away the lions?
It scared away the lions. It scared away the lions, and it actually worked. His idea sort of spread to other villages. So we met Richard, and you couldn't have imagined a less likely candidate to give a talk. He was so shy. He was 12 years old at the time, and he was sort of huddled there in the corner. We could hardly get a word out of him. But we thought, Richard, you have to come to California and give a TED Talk, because this is a really inspiring story.
And the second idea I got was to use a scarecrow. I was trying to trick the lions that I was standing near the cowshed. But lions are very clever. They will come the first day, and they see the scarecrow, and they go back. But the second day, they'll come and they say, this thing is not moving here, it's always here. So he jumps in and kills the animals. So I had an idea. I used to work in my room for the whole day. And I even took apart my mom's new radio. And that day, she almost killed me, but I learned a lot about electronics.
He was so charming, and everyone in the audience was following him every step of the way. Were there the steps that he took to get to that point? Can anyone take those same steps?
I think they can. I think they can. You know, if you can tell a story, that can be the heart of a great talk. If you can tell a story that means something more than just, you know, a story about you, but you actually, it's a story you could learn something from, then that can really work, and everyone can tell a story.
Right.
You know, we're wired to tell stories.
And we're wired to listen to them and to absorb them. So you have in your book 4 guidelines, is that right? Can you tell us about the first one?
Well, there are many guidelines, but I guess four key ones would be, one, you know, just focus on that one idea. If the goal is to gift an idea to the audience, tie all of your talk to that idea. Make it, if you like, the through line of your talk, so that everything you talk about connects to it in some way. You know, it's an example or some historical context for it or an implication of it, etc. That means cutting out so much of what you would like to say, which doesn't quite naturally fit with that. And that's the hardest part for speakers, but you have to do that because you need to allow time to unpack that idea properly. You need to give examples of why it makes sense. You need to maybe, you know, share a metaphor and so forth. So that's the first thing, is really be disciplined about cutting out stuff other than a through line that connects to one idea.
Right.
And then 2, you have to figure out how to make a connection with the audience. Before you can start messing around in people's brains, you have to get their permission to do it.
Is that usually through a little personal story? Or?
Yeah, just giving a sense maybe of who you are. I mean, there's no rules, again, on how to do it. For some people, it might just be to ask an intriguing question, and people go, oh, I'm interested in that. Yeah, give me some more. Some people will tell an anecdote, whatever. Some people will they'll look out and they'll make eye contact with people, and you can see that you're looking at a human and not a robot reading a script.
Right, right.
So,
whatever
different
it
in each case. But that needs to happen, and then you start building the idea. And it's obviously different for every different situation, but fundamentally you have to build it from elements that are already in the audience's minds. So that means you have to use their language. You can't suddenly leapfrog in with a piece of jargon or a concept that they're unfamiliar with, or it's gone. Like if you're explaining something complicated, you have to start with a metaphor that will make sense to them. I guess the final part is just to make sure that it's something worth spreading. It's that you're really giving this talk in service of the idea, not to promote you.
Right, absolutely. Now, do you think that learning to speak in front of people is an important skill that everyone should try and hone?
It's important, and it's just got a whole lot more important. You know, 10 years ago, online video arrived, and suddenly, for the first time, actually in history, it's possible for anyone who's sharing an idea to record that and to see it spawn over the internet and reach, goodness, you know, thousands, maybe even millions of people. That's completely changed the rules, because it's now worth investing much more time and effort in getting that right and learning how to do it well.
Absolutely. Would you like to see schools perhaps invest in teaching this skill?
Absolutely. We think that presentation literacy is a core skill for the future. It should be one of the 4 R's, you know, reading, writing, arithmetic, and rhetoric. A new rhetoric.
That's right.
Presentation literacy, because that's how people are actually going to get ahead in the world. Learning how to present yourself. It's not going to be by writing a letter to the editor or sending someone your resume in printed form so much as, hello, here I am, and this is what I care about. And because you can do that now on YouTube or whatever, that's where the action will be. That's a skill people really need.
The skill of the future. Well, the skill of now and the skill of the future.
Exactly, exactly. Any leader who wants to bring people along with them, you know, that speaking to them is by far the most powerful way of doing that. And I think there's so much to be learned there.
Absolutely. Well, you've brought us along with you right now. Chris Anderson, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.